Fresh off President Trump's warm embrace of Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman in the Oval Office, followed by a lavish White House dinner. Today, President Trump just served his good friend, that's a quote, a new heaping dose of praise. This time at the U.S.-Saudi Investment Forum hosted at the Kennedy Center. President Trump touted a $1 trillion Saudi investment in the U.S. CNN's Caitlin Collins is live at the White House. So, as you know, Caitlin, President Trump had a lot to say about this new elevated relationship between the U.S. and Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, Pam, and I think if yesterday's Oval Office sit-down didn't illustrate enough just how close the president's relationship truly is with the Saudi royal kingdom and the royal family, I mean, today certainly put that on display as he was giving those remarks here in Washington one day after he stood by the Saudi crown prince and defended him over the killing of Jamal Khashoggi, which the CIA found had been personally ordered by MBS. The president today was touting the relationship between the United States and Saudi Arabia and said this.
It's a great honor. That happens seldom. That's a sign of trust. We signed a historic strategic defense agreement yesterday also, and that's something that is likewise very rare, and it's very honored company that you're in.
Pam, the president there was referencing that defense agreement that they had long planned to sign when the Crown Prince was coming here to Washington. Of course, it comes shortly after he signed a similar one with Qatar earlier this year. Just speaking to the president's view of the Middle East and how he's navigating that through his own foreign policy lens, it's earned him some criticism from some people in the MAGA world, obviously saying that that is not what he ran on and what his supporters wanted him to run on when he was running for office. And of course, the fallout has continued over those remarks yesterday, with Republicans sidestepping the president's comments when they've been asked about them, and including the majority leader John Thune earlier today on that front when it comes to Jamal Khashoggi's killing, something that has been deeply investigated not only by the Turkish government but also the United States government.
And the other big news, of course, we're following at the White House, Caitlin, is that Epstein bill. Any idea when President Trump is going to sign it?
No, Pam. I mean, it's just after 6 o'clock here. We just walked by the West Wing. Typically, when the president is still over in the West Wing, there's a Marine stationed outside the front door, as you know. There's not one right now, and so it appears that the president is not in the West Wing this evening. It's not completely clear. But we have not gotten anything from the White House all day about whether or not the president plans to sign that bill in front of the cameras or off camera inside the Oval Office. Typically, they've obviously made a huge show of when he does sign bills or executive orders or pardons or anything of the like inside the Oval Office, with his staff secretary there handing him those documents. We have not seen any of that, and we've asked the White House multiple times if the president has even signed this bill yet, and they have given us no indication of that, Pam.
All right, Caitlin Collins at the White House for us tonight. Thank you so much, and watch for more reaction from Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett tonight on The Source with Caitlin Collins at 9 Eastern here on CNN. And here now is Republican Congressman Mike Lawler. He serves on the Foreign Affairs Committee. Hi, Congressman. So I want to just start with your reaction to Saudi Arabia's new designation as a major non-NATO ally.
Look, from my vantage point as chair of the Middle East and North Africa subcommittee, Saudi Arabia is a critical ally in the region and around the globe. If we are to combat the malign influence of Iran, China, Russia long term, Saudi Arabia is a critical strategic partner, both in terms of stability and peace in the Middle East, but the larger goal of shared economic prosperity around the globe. So from the standpoint of being a NATO ally, if you will, I think it's a positive step forward, and I think it goes to the larger strategic mission, which is to really normalize relations between Saudi Arabia and Israel.
So there is the strategic component. There's also the moral component. You've been a strong supporter of 9/11 victims and families, even introducing a law that would prevent 9/11 terrorists from receiving plea deals. Here's how the Saudi Crown Prince responded when asked about the 9/11 families, quote, being furious with his Oval Office visit.
I feel painful about, the families of 9/11 in America, but, we have to focus on reality. Reality based on CIA documents and based on a lot of documents, that Osama bin Laden used Saudi people in that event for one main purpose, is to destroy this relation, to destroy the American-Saudi relation. That's the purpose of 9/11.
What did you make of that response?
Look, foreign policy is messy, and I have been a strong supporter of our 9/11 families as a New Yorker. What happened on 9/11 was the most tragic day in our country, and there is no question that there has been serious, legitimate, and verified concerns pertaining to the role of some in the Saudi government on 9/11. I think the Crown Prince is certainly correct that Osama bin Laden's objective was to undermine the relationship between Saudi Arabia and the U.S. in part, as we saw with Iran's objective of trying to prevent normalization between Israel and Saudi Arabia on October 7th. So there is challenges. Anytime you are dealing with foreign policy, as allies, you have to have an honest dialogue about these issues and work through them. The long-term objective is to strengthen the relationship, to address any of these concerns. It's part of the reason why I've been very vocal in support of the 9/11 families, and will continue to do so. I think having these conversations is critical. It's not something that can be swept under the rug, but I think you also obviously long-term have to look strategically at how we move forward, how we ensure that a 9/11 or an October 7th never happens again.
So you have the 9/11 families here, you have the former colleagues and the family of Jamal Khashoggi, who was killed, and the U.S. intelligence community assessed that MBS likely ordered that. He has denied that. What do you say to those families who want to see some accountability here?
I understand it, and certainly, the Crown Prince's response yesterday in saying that mistakes were made, that they have tried to make reforms to ensure that type of situation with Jamal Khashoggi doesn't happen again. That should never happen, period. Shouldn't have happened to begin with. But ultimately, he is the Crown Prince. He will ultimately be the King of Saudi Arabia. And we have to deal with that reality. And ultimately, we're going to have to, as allies, work through these issues. I will tell you, having visited Saudi Arabia in May of this year, there have been significant reforms and changes made in the country that I think is a positive step forward, and something that for the long-term stability in the region and in the Middle East is imperative. If we are going to avoid another 9/11, avoid another October 7th, it requires having strong partnerships inclusive of Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, and other Arab states. That is the only way we are going to be able to establish peace and stability in the Middle East. So there are always going to be challenges. From my standpoint, you cannot sweep it under the rug. You cannot dismiss it. It's imperative as allies to have honest dialogue, diplomatically but directly. And I think that is something that we have to keep in mind as we work through these issues.